experience. So our first panel to kick things off this morning, it's a discussion on embracing AI-first approaches in enterprise technology. Like, the question I think comes to mind is, what if we build software around intelligence rather than adding AI later? It's a good question to ponder. That's actually the shift that's happening out there today. Instead of rigid SaaS tools with AI layered on top, companies are starting to lay that foundational AI model, one that's going to understand the context and building workflows around it. What's that going to mean? More agility, smarter automation, really an entirely new way of working. So is this the future of enterprise software? And what's it mean for all of our businesses moving forward? So to break all of that down, we have an incredible panel with us today discussing embracing AI-first approaches in enterprise tech. First up, the Vice President, AI Strategy and Innovation at Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits, Ramon Baez. Ramon? There he is. Come on, you don't have to clap. Yeah, sure, give him a nice round. While he's coming up here, the Data and AI Strategies Senior Leader, Consulting CDO at Health New England, Murali Kashaboyna. I hope I said that right. I'm making these up as I go along. Murali, are you here? Okay, maybe, what's that? No? Okay, maybe I'll sit and do that. That would be horrible for everyone. All right. Vice President of Data and Analytics at Vibes, Sam Benedictson. There we go, Sam. Yay, you made it. And last but not least, Vice President, Impact Insights and Analytics at the YMCA of Metropolitan Chicago, Caitlin Jones. Hi, come on, Caitlin, nice. And to lead this whole discussion and of our panel, we'll grab you that one right there, and we can put the moderator right here if that works out. Dwarika Patro, founder of AIS. There he is. Come on up here. Listen to that smattering of applause. Let's hear it for Dwarika. How do you say your first name? Oh, I did it. Oh, not too bad. All right, I won't get fired. Great. Take it away. I think you just flick that little lever up on the side and it should work.
Okay, good morning everyone. I hope you already had a cup of coffee and excited to join us. Thank you so much for attending this event. I have a fantastic team here. So as discussed, we are going to discuss a little bit more about what the AI first approach looks like and how it is going to impact industries, right? So just to start off with, probably I'll go like this. Human intelligence has been a fascinating thing, right? And we've been working to create inorganic form of intelligence for a long, long time, but that has been broadly been constructed to organic beings like humans and animals, and maybe humans more. And we've been working quite hard, right? I mean, over the years. But I think finally we are at a stage where some emergent properties of general intelligence is coming because of the large language model evolution, so on and so forth, right? But I think for the last 50 years or 100 years, whatever, I mean, since the computer started, we have been trying to encode all our human intelligence through code, through business logics, and so on and so forth. So that's why the software development has been very, very rigid. But with general intelligence coming into picture, I think we are at the first time in history, we are in a place where probably we can start thinking, can we first build a general intelligence and then on top of that add different workflows, right? Just like how humans or any animal beings come into the world, they come with some general intelligence first, and then they see the society, see the environment around them, and they get trained to operate specific skills, be a doctor, be an engineer, whatever it is, right? So probably we can do the same, or we can't, I don't know, but we will discover that more in this discussion. While I understand you have been already introduced shortly, but I would like everyone to introduce and also tell, what do you think from your vantage point, what AI first approach looks like, and how your organization or the industry is going to get benefited or impacted by this approach. Maybe Kathleen, you want to go first?
Sure. Okay, the mic's on. Yes, okay, sorry, I was a little uncertain at first. So I'm Caitlin Jones. I'm Vice President Impact Insights and Analytics at YMCA of Metro Chicago. So I lead efforts to evaluate the impact of our work as well as identify innovative pathways to increase our impact and make strategic decisions for the business. In terms of AI first approaches, I work in the social impact space, and I think the key thing is really intentionally integrating artificial intelligence in strategic decision-making processes as it makes sense and in a meaningful way. So what that looks like, I think, would depend on the organization, on the decisions being made. So it could be something as simple as using generative AI as a thought partner in making decisions and building decision trees to predict, the potential pathways going forward, or even, including AI as a potential resource in a decision matrix as a tool to resolve a problem or an issue. So I think it's really not a one-size-fits-all in terms of what it would look like, but it really depends on the business and the capabilities within it. Now, in terms of the social impact space, I think it's really exciting about what AI can do. I think there's already some interesting things happening, but I think there can be more. I think there's really a strong possibility for AI to create new pathways for impact for organizations, to really change communities in the world we live in a really positive way. And I think especially in terms of identifying innovative ways to do that. I also think with the emergence of new technologies, there's a real opportunity for people focused on social responsibility, concerned with making the world a better place, to contribute to conversations like we're having today, to help make sure we're thinking about these issues not with just respect to compliance, but also about how can we really be responsible in a meaningful way. And I think that's something that the sector that I work in is really well positioned to do. So I think that's a real way it can contribute to this work as well.
Yeah, thanks, Caitlin. My name is Sam Benedictson, and I lead data and analytics that includes data science, data engineering, and machine learning at Vibes. And we are a product company, so we have a platform that brands use, like Chipotle and Polo Ralph Lauren, recently locally Portillo's, to grow a mobile audience and communicate with them over messaging, whether that's text messaging, push messaging through their apps, or mobile wallet loyalty cards and offers. And so when we think about being an AI-first organization, there's two sides of it. There's our company and enabling our engineers and employees to be better at their jobs. And we try to stay away from productivity can be a bit of a loaded term, and so we talk about making it so that the engineers on my team can write better code that works better, that is more maintainable. And I was thinking about the change that is happening right now, and it reminded me of when Google first came out. Before that, if you wanted to find the answer to something, you had to call a friend or go look in an encyclopedia or dictionary or go to the library. And I was reminded when at the beginning of my career, I tended to just ask people questions. And I don't know if probably you were either on the receiving or the sending end of the website, Let Me Google That For You, where you could sort of passive aggressively send, if somebody asked you a question that was very easily Googleable, you'd click a link and it would sort of fill it out. And I think there's a big learning curve in that, where you've got to figure out how to use that information and not get lost in it and spend your entire day looking at pointless details. And I had an experience a couple of days ago where I had found I played piano professionally too, and I was trying to find a place to practice on an organ, and I had found a place a month ago, and I could not find it, and I kept searching, and I went through my history, and I couldn't figure out the right names I had searched, and then I stopped, and a little bit later, I typed out the question as a prompt in ChatGPT, and it immediately found the place and the page on it, and I'd actually found the website, I just didn't think it was the right place. And I sort of had this moment of, this is the type of thing that's quicker, and we hear wins like that on our sales team of coming back from a conference, and it drafts all the emails, and there's still a lot of manual work, but it could turn 5 hours into an hour so that you can do more important work. On the platform side, I like the topic here of building a model or sort of focusing a product on the intelligence. Our existing product, we're adding AI, and that's a little bit slow, and it's tools that we're adding on and features. We're right now going to a market with a workflow builder where we're trying to do that in the opposite way, where AI is built into it, and it's not a thing that you have to click and turn on or use. It's just part of the workflow. And to varying degrees of success, because there's the team that's doing the AI side, there's the team that's building it, and we're trying to figure out the right cadence of that, but we'll probably get into that more later. So, thanks.
Ramon Baez, things work? Yeah. Ramon Baez, Vice President of Artificial Intelligence Innovation at Southern Glazer's Wine and Spirits, which probably no one's heard of, but they're the largest distributor of wine and spirits in North America, own about 70% of the market. The company I came from before I joined Southern Glazers was Accenture, which probably most folks heard of. And I was the Chief AI Officer at Accenture for 6-7 years. So this is a regular question kind of that I experience, most clients I go see, how do I get AI ready? What is AI ready? And I really see it. I have notes. I'm cheating because I have notes because I really want to make sure these are important points I want to point out. I really see there's 3 pillars, right? The first pillar is, are your people AI ready? That's one pillar of it. Another pillar is your data AI ready? And another pillar of it is your technology AI ready? I think organizations obviously want to build systems, core systems, platform services, but I want to kind of make a connection to something a bit different that folks will relate to and understand why it's so difficult for organizations to be successful in artificial intelligence, and continues to be, no matter how skilled your workforce is. Because at a very foundational level, kind of at the base of it, if you will, organizations, they need to establish like reliable business processes. They need to be able to, have a level of predictability. They want to add things like, basic intelligence, robotic process automation, intelligence automation. Those are all kind of foundational. Those foundational pieces really help you become your technology AI ready, because they have a level of consistent automation that exists, where you're starting to get, your platforms that are important, layer on there other platforms and services, your AWSs, your Databricks, et cetera, right? But then when you move from there, you have, you start thinking about, well, is my data AI ready, right? Do I have safety? Do I have resilience? Am I able to connect it? Do I have consistency? Do I have low predictability? Do I have structured versus unstructured? That's a safety concern, right? Then you move from there, you say, okay, organizationally, I keep hearing about agentic AI. I want to get into agentic AI. I want to have solutions that we can experience, that we're partnering with, and we're creating experiences from sales to organizations to production to operations team that it feels like a consistent flow. And really, that's what think about agentic AI. That's what it is. And that's really a belonging piece. This is where it gets interesting. Now you've achieved some of these things, and you start recognizing that in deploying more advanced tooling, right? Well, I want to have responsible AI, right? And I want to start introducing more, consistent frameworks that have understanding and recognition of what's right and wrong. Now we're start playing with the esteem portion of it. And then from there, the last, right, for you to truly actually be AI ready, there has to be a level of self-actualization that exists. What I'm trying to say, and what I've been, working through this concept is, in order for you to be really truly AI ready from people, data, technology, you have to realize that the human component, you're just flowing through Maslow's hierarchy. That's all that's happening. Where you get stuck is the self-actualization and esteem. Because it's really easy to get the platforms together. It's really easy to get the data together. It's really impossible to get the people to understand the importance of the change component of artificial intelligence and why it's so vital. And absent that component, there will be no successful artificial intelligence programs. And I can share that, we were chatting over dinner. I've delivered artificial intelligence program locally on the ground in every continent but Australia. Literally every continent. With consistency and 100% success rate. Not because I'm that excellent technically, but because I realize there's a human component that if you address that first, you can be very successful. Sorry.
Thank you so much. I think really great points. I just noted a few of them, obviously. One is, and in your business, it can enable new social interactions, right? Pathways. And for you guys, it's more about new opportunities, not necessarily about cost optimization or productivity. And Simon, to your point, it is more around creating AI for strategy, but human in the center of everything we do, right? I think that's great. And one of the things that I also kind of derive from what you guys are telling is around how we are getting into a society which is very, it's not constrained by certain intelligence or certain, we're entering into an era of abundance, right, with AI. I think you don't need to constrain yourself, okay, how many people I have, how many technology I have, or how much data we have. I think we can work around it. Obviously, it's a very early stage, but as it matures, we can definitely work around it, right? But that brings me to the second question that I have is around, right, okay, AI first strategy is great. I think as all AI leaders, we are very much upbeat about how we go and do this, right? But to be truly like enabling that in the organization, what are the key capabilities that we need, be it people, technology, or around skills, right? Or around anything, maybe around the compliance and whatsoever, right? So how are you approaching it, and what do you think, where you are working to enable that?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to speak to that. So I think of three key things. So one thing with respect to skills, I think the most important thing is critical thinking. With respect to capabilities, I would say it's agility. And then culture, I'd say really having a social enterprise mindset. And I'll explain a little more what I mean by that. So skills, I think critical thinking is important in general, but especially as AI becomes a bigger part of our lives and our work, being able to ask the important questions like, how did this come about? Why is this model generating this? Can I fully understand and explain this? And also being able to ask, like, given what we know or don't know, is this really the solution we want to use? So also being able to make the decision, like, even though we have this AI capability, maybe it's not the right resource for this particular need. And so I think building those critical thinking skills, especially among leaders, as well as staff as they start using AI tools, is really, really important. Related to that, I think a key capability of agility, right? So being able to pivot, even though we might have this plan of how we're going to use something, but we might learn, oh, it's not actually doing exactly what we want it to, or maybe the model needs to be adjusted, or we need to use a different tool, and being willing to pivot, not being so wedded to a particular plan that you're unwilling to shift as needed. So I think really flexing that muscle of, really being a scientist and kind of hypothesis testing and being open to shifting, especially as new technologies emerge. And then I think the culture that really needs to support this is one of a social enterprise mindset. So I think all businesses are social enterprises. What we do impacts the lives of our employees. It impacts the lives, the broader world around us. And I think it's really important, especially when integrating new technologies that can have consequences, for the people working for us and the world that we live in. It's important to keep that in mind and really think about the bigger picture outside of one specific decision or strategy that might be implemented. And with that, I think also comes innovation, right? So having that entrepreneurial mindset with that broader perspective, I think is really important to leveraging these tools effectively. And I think at the core of all that is having really strong leadership that embraces those principles, understands critical thinking, understands the need for agility, and that social enterprise mindset is really important to making it all work.
Yeah, I agree. Both of you talked about the people aspect, and we've got people sort of at opposite ends of the spectrum. There's people who are embracing everything and will go to ChatGPT and without the right training and information might go put confidential information in there that then gets trained into the model. And we've got people on that side of the spectrum. There's another set that are fearful that it's going to automate away their job. And then another group of folks who are concerned about the power usage and the impact of it globally, who are practically refusing. And so on our end, there's I think a training component, and then it really centers around trust and making sure that your employees and all the people at the company trust that why we're pushing this. And we've said for 2025, our metrics are all around adoption. So we've been very transparent with what they are, and they're not around trying to increase productivity or increase, specific numbers. It's around adoption because it's more of a long game for us. Like, we think this will make everybody a better contributor to the company. And so we're investing in training and putting together the systems that will enable that, knowing that we probably won't see a big benefit from that, at least on the employee workforce side this year. And we have the same thing with our customers. I was at a Fortune 200 company last week talking with them, and I had been warned that they're very fearful around AI, and one of their data people said something about how AI is a bad word in this building, and I pulled up their website and I was like, I noticed that this recommender on your website says powered by AI, and he's like, yeah, except for there, and so they're clearly open to it, but there's a large level of scrutiny, and so we've spent a lot of time in understanding what our customers both contractually were allowed to do for them, and what they're comfortable with, and so it sort of has to pass both of those tests for us to roll things out to them.
Yeah, I think Simon, probably you have a little bit covered this, so I just want to ask you, just to follow from here, right? I think we all know probably, like how to build a AI first approach to, obviously, there is a lot of evolution happening, but this is going to be a very expensive experiment, right? Because it's something new and we're very early stage in this whole journey. So one is that, okay, as an AI leader, we understand this, but how do you convince the board, right? How to get that buy-in, both from the board and from the people, down there who are going to be the consumer of this AI, right? Any ideas that you can share with the team?
Yeah, I think that it have to be a couple things when you approach, thinking about all my experiences in consulting, right? Everyone wants to, I think like consulting is like opposite from like when you get married to a woman, right? To a degree. It depends on how much you're attracted to your husband or wife, right? But in consulting, you want really long engagements, but in real life, you want to get married really fast and tie that person down, right? So I think in approaching AI, you have to do, probably three things in order to be, to get that support. You have to be nimble, recognizing that maybe the deal size needs to adjust in order to get the buy-in, be creative, and maybe, either co-invest or come with the asset that's, valuable to the customer. You have to be humble and realize maybe every customer is just not ready yet. And recognizing that there's a unique piece, you said top and bottom. There's a unique thing going on now where you truly have 5 generations of workers in the workforce today, from the boomers all the way down. And the irony is the last generation is the COVID generation that graduated. And not to insult anyone if you graduate from what I'm going to say, but I remember years ago, people used to tease about, University of Phoenix and how University of Phoenix online degrees, et cetera, right? And I can tell you that, my nephew graduated from MIT recently, and it was online. I said, congratulations, you have a University of Phoenix degree now, right? Because even the folks at MIT and everywhere else, they went online, right? So recognizing that, there's a rapid evolution that's happening in multiple generations, understanding the differences in those generations, kind of what you're describing. Some folks don't want to touch things, and other folks literally grew up on the technology. Yeah. The best way I find to do that is nimble, creative, and humble.
I could clearly say, as a tech company that is very data centric, I guess we maybe had less trouble convincing and more trouble focusing, I guess. So it was more, my boss, our CTO, is very supportive and has been early on when I started leading the data team in 2020. He's like, I really want to focus on the sort of AI machine learning side, and we invested in training, and it was a relatively easy sell-in to our CFO and CEO and the board. And so, yeah, I guess for us, it's been more of a focus.
So I think that's great, right? I mean, you have to go and sell the value creation, right? Both at a board level and at the, at the ground level, who are going to be the consumer of the AI. And then obviously we need to create all the guardrails to make sure all the risks are managed, right? But then there are long tail risks as well, which are probably not yet known, or known but very difficult to solve today, right? So maybe you guys are representing 3 different industries, right? One is a technology company, one is a not-for-profit, another is like a large corporate family-owned business. From your perspective, how are you approaching managing those risks, right? And which are the ones which keeps you awake at night before deploying the AI into your workflows? Maybe, we just have 7 minutes left, maybe 1 or 2 minutes max.
I'm happy to speak about risk. So I see 2 big risks that I guess keep me up at night. So one, I think, is just related to bias, so especially with deep learning models, when we're getting these outputs generated and we don't know exactly how or why they were generated, and therefore we can't interrogate whatever biases or assumptions might be underlying those outputs. And I think that's really concerning for any mission-driven organization that's concerned with social responsibility, which I hope is the vast majority of businesses in this room. I think the other concern I have is just the potential harm of AI deployment. So I had a really interesting conversation recently with people working in the payment space. And as you all know, using AI increasingly to verify identities, and that's going to just continue to ramp up, which is great from a fraud perspective because it's going to reduce fraud pretty significantly. But on the other hand, it's going to create increased barriers to people and communities who are historically underbanked because they already don't trust the technology and they're not going to want to use those payment systems, which means we can see things in the US like the racial wealth gap continue to expand and be exacerbated. So I think both those concerns keep me up at night. I think the best way to mitigate it is going back to what I shared earlier in terms of what makes an AI deployment successful. I think really taking that social enterprise mindset, embracing critical thinking, and really being aware that these technologies have serious implications not only for process optimization and operations, but also for the world that we live in and our employees and the communities we're working within. And I think that's the most important thing. And then identifying how can we mitigate these risks. We might not be able to mitigate them entirely, but at least recognizing them and working to minimize them as much as possible, I think is really important.
Yeah, I'd say last year, every week we would get a new DPA or a new addendum, data security addendum from one of our customers. And I think there was so much ambiguity on what we could do that I ended up spending a week, and we have enterprise customers. We're a relatively small company, so it's possible to just read through all of that information and categorize it. And I found that gave people a lot more confidence of, there's this group of customers that we really can't touch, and we're going to turn everything off for them, and that's fine. If they ever want to change the agreement, or then we will. And so I guess from our standpoint, from a risk, we're worried about our customers. I also agree with Caitlin on the ethical side, and we're deciding what offers and deals and stuff are going to consumers. And our data science lead, who sort of put together the practice and everything, I made sure to find somebody that's very important to him personally. And he's also been involved in rolling out AI across the company for our employees to use. And so I think finding people who are passionate about that can take at least it takes some of my concern away from it. Because I know that we're very much on the same page, and all of our technology leadership is.
Yeah, I think when I think about the biggest risk, I would say, is probably inaction. I spent my entire 20-year career only in artificial intelligence, most of which I was kind of laughed out of rooms and laughed out of buildings. When I walk in and say artificial intelligence, 10, 12 years ago, they were just like, it doesn't exist, it's not real. Now you can't, pass a day without having 40 people on LinkedIn say, can I talk to you, right? So I think the biggest risk is inaction. And I think that when I think about the concern that folks have, right? If you're a mature, large enterprise, your biggest risk is really around terms and conditions. And if you're operating off of a hyperscaler platform, you've already agreed to those terms and conditions, no matter what you're doing. Whatever large language models you're consuming fall within those terms and conditions. Nothing's changed, right? So the biggest opportunity, and I think in necessity everywhere I've gone, is really helping them stand up a skills academy that's going to educate the organization, not only technically educate them, but also from a governance perspective. That tends to be the largest lift required to be successful.
Well, thank you. I think just 2 minutes left. If there are any questions in the audience? Okay.
Oh, I do have a question back here.
What kind of approach the companies should take to regarding the educating the people on the AI and the implications and all that? How you see it?
What kind of what, I'm sorry?
What kind of approach?
Approach. There is no, most organizations aren't going to resist to making an investment, I would think. Most organizations resist to making an investment, but I think when I think of something as simple as prompting, which everyone in here probably thinks they're a master of, I guarantee you I can walk everyone into a room and show you how to prompt completely different. Your output would get 2 paragraphs, my output would get 3 pages, right? And so something as simple as understanding, context, goal, framework, et cetera. There's many frameworks, just something as simple as that. Educating the workforce on prompting, governance, what you should input and not input, standards, controls. Those simple things, I think, give a big lift to an organization, not only emotionally to the employees, because it makes them feel very involved, but also those same individuals you're educating. The first folks I went out educated is legal, architecture, and compliance team. And then when my initiatives went to them, they were already aware and they were proving it. So there's value in doing it.
Thank you. I think just on time. So, thank you so much for your valuable time and your input. I hope you all enjoyed the chat. If there are any other questions, probably the team is available. They can take offline as well. And thank you so much and have a great day.
Let's have a nice hand for our panel, everybody.